So in this video, I'm going to show you how to reset your wrists with some very simple self-mobilization stretches and exercises. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Dr. Rowe here at SpineCare in St. Joseph, Michigan. So I'm going to break this down into a very simple and straightforward step-by-step guide. You don't need any special equipment, though I do recommend using a lacrosse ball for the first part because it's going to help reduce a little bit more muscle tightness. The nice thing is that this is going to put a lot more motion into the wrist, and how we can test to see if we might have a little bit of impingement at the wrist. Put your hands together, or I should say the arms together, and bring the wrist back like this. You might notice that one wrist doesn't have the ability to come down as much as the other. So do it before and after with these self-mobilization exercises. You may find that that wrist finally starts to come down and actually feels a lot better. So we're going to focus on wrist flexion, extension, just rotation, overall mobility. We're going to try to get all the bones in the hands and the wrist moving a lot more freely and hopefully giving you a lot less pain and a lot less achiness throughout the day. So let's get started with them. So for the first part, we're going to do an active release on the wrist flexors right in this region. And I'm going to use my lacrosse ball for this. You can use pretty much any round object. If you want a baseball, tennis ball, you name it, you can use it. But it's just really nice because it's going to give a nice self-release into those muscles. So what I'm going to do to start off with, actually let me put this a little bit right here, is just try to glide up and down over those wrist flexor muscles right through here. And get right into the wrist too, just to activate, again, those muscles. If you find any spots that are very tender, put a little bit more pressure in there like this, dig in there and just knock them out. So what you want to do next is then start to bring the wrist up and then down while you go over the muscles with the lacrosse ball. So it's going to really activate those muscles, and you can go in and just get a lot of tension out while you do this. So if you don't have a tennis ball, what you can do is just use the edge of a table instead. Just make sure that's round so it's not going to dig into those muscles. But again, you can just glide up and down, and while you do this, just bring the wrist up and down to activate those muscles. So for the next part, we need a little bit of cushion, and I'm just going to use a ratty old dish towel. So the side that we want to self-mobilize, we're going to take that elbow and place it down into the towel. Take the other hand and use the webbing right here to go right outside the bony spot of the wrist. You want to grab on there and really just latch onto the wrist. And at that point, what I'm going to do is a two-part motion to help distract the wrist and move these bones of the wrist. I'm going to push down at my elbow while this hand lifts up on it. So I want this nice up and straight. I'm going to get a really good hold on it. I'm going to pull down at the elbow, up at the wrist. And when you do this, you're self-distracting that wrist. You might actually feel some pops and cracks in there. That's completely normal. It's basically just resetting itself, and at that point, hopefully getting a lot more motion in there. What I like to do is just hold, actually I just got a really good pop right there. I'm just going to hold that for a couple seconds, relax, and then repeat it about 5 times, and then switch to the other wrist. So for this next one, I find it to be easier on all fours. You can do it right on the floor. So the wrist that we want to self-mobilize, we're going to take the other hand and use that side's webbing to go right over those 2 small bones that are off to the side of the wrist. Drive that in as much as you're able to and get a very good contact point. What you're going to do with the wrist that you're trying to self-mobilize, that whole arm straight at the elbow, just start to lean forward into it as far as you feel comfortable. And what you're going to do is hold that for a little bit, come back and relax, and then just keep driving that opposite hand into your wrist while you lean forward. And you're going to get a very good distraction into the wrist, especially those bones that make up the hand and the wrist. So what we can do next is then start to lean at an angle while we do this. Start to explore different angles, and you're going to notice that one probably is a little bit more sore and tender or restricted. That's a spot that you're really going to want to focus on. So I'm just leaning a little bit over to the side, and then I'm coming in. And then what you can do next is actually start to rotate the arm while you do this. Put a little bit more rotation into the wrist. Just really explore all of those angles, and you're just going to help put a lot more mobility into the wrist where it really needs it. Again, only go to your comfort level and just focus on the spots that are very restricted. And then what you can also do is flip the hand over and do the same thing going in the opposite direction. So again, with this one, just go into different spots, do a little bit of rotation with it, go at different angles, and just really explore the wrist and make sure that you target the spots that feel very, very locked up. So if you liked the video and got a lot of relief, please show us your support by giving this video a like and maybe subscribing to our channel too. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching.